everyone. My name is Walker Guffey. I am the founder of Hello Moon. Hello Moon is a universal index of the Solana blockchain. So we've got data on effectively everything that's ever happened on chain. So we've got a website, hellomoon.io. You can look at things like all wash trading that's happened within Solana NFTs. We've got hundreds of thousands of Twitter handles mapped to wallet addresses, so you can see who's buying and selling and things like that. Yeah, here's Winston.
Awesome. Thanks, Walker. Hey, guys. My name's Winston, and I'm one of the co-founders of Cega. That's spelled CEGA. We're building the first DeFi exotic options protocol. So how that works is users come to our web app, connect their wallet, deposit stablecoin, and through our vaults, we trade exotic option strategies for users that generate safer, high yields.
And I'm Luke, co-founder of Bridgesplit. We build financial products for unique assets on chain. So we do kind of a variety of things, but recently I've been very focused on NFTs, as that's been a lot of fun on Solana, but broadly focused on assets that are very hard to compose with DeFi. So anything from an NFT to a LP position in a concentrated liquidity pool to off-chain assets.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, well, I'm the co-founder of Jupiter, and Jupiter is the largest DEX aggregator on Solana. And we've just recently passed a cool milestone. We've done over 22 billion in trade volume in the last 9 months. So that also makes us one of the fastest growing DeFi apps out there.
Well, but I think does this work?
Yeah.
I think Jupiter is the fastest protocol to hit 21 billion and fastest DeFi protocol to hit 21 billion in volume. Is that right?
Yes, ever.
There you go. Across any chain, right?
Across any chain.
Wow,
across
that's
any
crazy.
chain.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want, I think the thing is, I attribute a lot of this to Solana, right? One of the amazing facts, I mean, people always talk about Solana as like cheap and fast, right? But I don't think people understand like how fast that it is, right? If you actually look at the numbers, at any given moment, the transaction volume on Solana far exceeds the transaction volume on all other blockchains combined. And actually, it's 7 times more, right? And so that's like one of the most interesting facts that I think underpins why we're able to do such large volumes, right? And more than in any other chain.
Yeah, I mean, so to put it another way, it's very common to see $1 trillion+ days on Solana where we're more than $1 trillion worth of financial assets are transferred. Now, a lot of that will be things like bid-ask spreads getting posted, from Serum getting posted on chain. But that's value leaving one account going to another account where it's locked, even if only for a millisecond or whatever it may be. And I think really only a chain like Solana with the TPS, et cetera, that Solana has could support something like that.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing is that, I mean, it really unlocks a lot of financial primitives, things that you guys are building that you can't really do on any other chain. And there's a lot of really awesome opportunity, that people haven't discovered yet. So
yeah, it's funny. It's great for these guys because it's composable enough that you can do anything. It's tough for us in a data aggregation setting because there's so much that can be done that it's a lot to keep wrapped up, if you will. But I mean, if you look at what people are doing, I mean, it really is crazy. Kind of the things you can do on Solana that just wouldn't be economic on any other chain.
Walker, what do you get most excited about when you look at the data? Because you guys are always tweeting fun stuff.
Floor price is going up. That's what it's all about. No, but so we're super excited about Solana DeFi, partially because of what people are building, but partially because of the potential. But I think in terms of what I'm most excited about, if you look at Solana NFTs, the growth has been absolutely incredible. So if you look at the number of active, buyers and sellers, if you look at the volume, really no matter how you cut it, it's been growing at like a 4,000% CAGR for almost a year, and from a high base, right? And so if you think about it, before founding Hello Moon, I spent 10 years studying technology markets in various capacities. You know, it's not every day you see a multi-billion-dollar market that's growing at thousands of percent a year, and so kind of hard to look away from that one.
Yeah, I think the NFT side is really interesting, but the DeFi side in particular is also really interesting. And for us, when we chose to build Cega and we were choosing which blockchain to build on, starting with Solana was a no-brainer because I mean, technological improvements and benefits aside, the Solana blockchain had the strongest ecosystem of DeFi innovators. And especially on the derivative side, for us, there was this ecosystem of builders, lots of experts from TradFi, and people who were really excited to roll up their sleeves and work and build together. And so for us, that made it a really easy choice to also pick Solana when you're thinking about like where to build the next innovative DeFi products.
Actually, question for Winston. So for people who don't know, when Cega launched their DeFi protocol, they also had an NFT mint at the same time, kind of like a community play. So interested in what first of all, what was it like to launch a DeFi protocol and do an NFT mint at the same time? That must have been crazy. But are you glad you did it? Do you feel like it helped you solidify a community? What was that experience like?
Yeah. So I mean, our team basically like didn't sleep for 48 hours. So that's what it was like to like launch an NFT and a DeFi protocol at the same time. But yeah, it was cool because what we wanted to do was find ways that we could continue innovating and pushing the boundaries on what people were doing in crypto. And so, NFTs are really great for marketing awareness. And in particular, we wanted to have as many people learn about our product as possible because we're building a really great product for retail investors in crypto. And so through the NFT launch, we actually were able to attract lots of attention. Like I think our tweets about the NFT campaign and like the NFT launch had tens of thousands of
That's right.
like engagements.
Well, and you guys were, I think, a top volume NFT project, for at least a day or two or three after launch, which is pretty unusual for something like that. So
yeah, we managed to sell out the entire NFT collection in less than 24 hours, which was huge. But I think what was really cool is the utility that we wanted to create for the NFT was that we could blend DeFi and NFTs together. So users who were holding the NFT actually got exclusive access to trading strategies through the form of vaults in our web app. And what we found when we launched Cega is that 30+% of our users were holding NFTs. And so I think what it showed is that there's a lot of incremental value to be had. And there's also a lot of really cool ways that DeFi and NFTs can continue to like innovate together.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the NFT sort of DeFi space. I think the other thing that NFTs have been really great for, and I hold actually a number of DeFi NFTs, but is sort of the I think we're always looking for holders, right, in our protocol, and it's such a strong way to kind of build a culture, a community, an identity of people who like sort of believe, right, and because they have like a visible badge of like, yeah, I'm standing behind this thing. And not only am I doing that, I'm earning yield too. But it's a very powerful thing. I think the other, just this is not a protocol on this stage, but I'm a big fan of Lifinity. They also have their Lifinity Flares, which is an NFT. I think they're doing one of the amazing things about holding that NFT also generates yield. But then if you have a token, you stake their token, you actually also earn a portion of the fees from the protocol. And they're doing some fantastic work.
So what, I mean, Ben, we talked about this before, but I've been very curious as to how we see Solana users comparing to some of the other chains. And it's been a lot of fun seeing like the breadth of adoption of all of these, mostly NFT focused things for now. But like going forward on the DeFi side, how do you think we get more people excited about DeFi and Solana just because it's been a little slower than the NFTs? And maybe that's just because NFTs are doing so well, but on the pure DeFi side of things.
Yeah. Well, I think the fundament, this is just one point of view, right? So, but I think for me, the fundamental promise of, DeFi or Solana itself, and maybe DeFi in particular, is about retail users, right? I think for, Ethereum is always going to have like the hardcore crypto natives, but sort of the cost to kind of, do things on Ethereum, try things out, and even like the UX, I think is a big barrier for the next wave, like say the next, 100 million, the next billion crypto users, right? So, and a chain like Solana, and I think, the promise is bearing out, right? Like with the massive adoption in NFTs this year, because it's so cheap to mint, it's so cheap to buy and ape into these collections, has made it more accessible for a lot of retail users.
Yeah, it's interesting. So if you if you look at signers on Solana, just Solana generally, the entire ecosystem, I think they're down a little bit from the last 2 months, from 2 months ago, but up dramatically from 5-6 months ago, and then all time. But in terms of just numbers, I think just for today, right? I think something to the effect of 88,000 individual users swapped on Solana. I think they've swaps are something like $40 million in the last 24 hours. I think since inception, there have been something like I think $77 billion in swaps, of which I think Jupiter has done 22 billion. And so yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing growth kind of no matter where you look, as long as you zoom out, more than 3 months.
Yeah, I feel like one of the other things, like, so we built our first product on Polygon, and overall was a good experience. Obviously, EVM stuff is a little bit easier to get started with, but one of the big things that we've noticed when building, especially on the retail side, is if you want to build a good user experience, something that feels like products people are used to, you have to consolidate or make a much more complicated transactions than you're going to if you just want to give somebody a page that they can click deposit and withdraw. If you want to build a real user experience around it, there's a lot of cost associated with that. So when you're looking at both the speed and the cost of Solana compared to even something like Polygon that's still very cheap, if you want to do anything that's sophisticated, it's going to be 100 to 150 times kind of like that base transaction fee level. So if your fees are 10 cents or something, you're still going to end up paying $15 for a transaction that's really meaningful and gets a lot done for the user. So you can bake a lot more of that functionality upfront for the user, mask a lot of what's happening under the hood, and make it not really feel like crypto.
I think the other thing people discount too, in terms of just the cost, even if it's like 15 cents or 20 cents or whatever it is, right, is that a lot of people, when they get started, they don't know what they're doing and they're losing money, right? So like, so if it and the thing is, like, you have to try it out in order to figure out how to make it work for you. And while you're trying it out, you're losing money, right? So if it costs you a couple $100, maybe $500 to like try something out, you're going to be hesitant. You're not going to really want to engage, and you may not even learn, how to use these
right.
things.
And on the other side of it too, you have like companies that want to pay for their users to get into this. But if it's 50 cents a user to do that, and you want to have 10,000 users on the platform or 50,000 users or whatever, you're putting up a good bit of money to do that. And you know, like Cupcake and Mountain Pay and all these guys on Solana, that they just pay for their users to do everything because it's, the 20th of a penny to do it. Makes it for much more early adoption for sure.
So when you guys chose to move from Polygon and build on Solana, like what were some of the decision making criteria that you guys were thinking about?
Well, I mean, we had originally never considered Solana, didn't know anything about it. We're not like EVM maxis broadly or ETH maxis, anything like that, but we just didn't know anything about it. And our biggest hesitance was like developer overhead and learning a new development framework.
Yeah, so what was that like for you guys?
It was a lot of fun. I used to be a trader, and like we did Rust, and it was kind of a very like familiar environment, but it was definitely like a different level of it. I was still generally new to crypto at that time. Polygon was like the first thing that I'd spent a lot of time on, and I was only on that for like 6 months. So it was like definitely raw. But once you get into it and you meet the people and all that stuff, like there's a lot of folks willing to help. And then like the it's kind of fun that everything's so new and raw, because it's just everything in crypto. There really haven't been that many things that have found like broader product market fit in a way. And so being in an environment where you have full control over that development environment, the user experience, what you're trying to build, who you're building it for, you ultimately have a better odds of successfully finding something that's actually going to make it 10 years from now, instead of building something that feels good today.
Yeah. And I think actually one thing that I really love about the ecosystem is that people are really solving real and hard problems. So something that just launched recently, that Solana Labs, it's in a sort of early alpha, is NFT compressions on chain, and that's because it's not cheap enough to create an NFT collection, and by compressing the data on chain, it's promising to reduce costs 10,000x, as well as the speed of things, and like that kind of problem solving, that kind of building, is really important to kind of for the long term potential of something like Solana.
When it brings up some interesting arguments too, because I think one of the bigger criticisms of Solana is like centralization and just kind of the role that certain figures play, SBF, Anatoly, etc. But I think it's like at least from my perspective, sort of inspiring, or like supportive, having folks that I know are innovating and building on that core chain that will stand up for me in Washington D.C. or wherever it is, right? And having a little bit of that centralized component in different parts of the chain is still important, because it's we're technology itself's 10 years old or whatever, right? Yeah. And then this specific part of the technology, right, where we're doing all of this composable DeFi NFT related things, is a lot newer, right? And we don't know what the right use cases are. We don't know what the final state is. So you need to have some direction and cohesion to all of these things, right? And stuff like NFT compression is only possible if you have folks who are really thinking about it. Not to say that other chains that aren't, like mostly Ethereum, don't innovate on things, but it just takes a little longer. World moves quickly.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that, if you look at it, like Solana, what Solana has accomplished in its short lifespan has been huge, right? And I don't think you can really, solve the problems for the next, again, 100 million, billion users, right? And this is one reason why I think Solana is super early, right? Like we're talking, like these numbers that we're sharing, right, is still like a small fraction of the potential number of users that could use something like Solana, right? And I mean, one reason why, even though it's super early, I'm really excited about Solana's SMS, or the mobile stack, because there's still a huge learning curve for anyone to get into crypto, right? Like, what's a seed phrase? What's a wallet? What is self-custody? But like having a phone, downloading an app, using like Apple Pay or something similar in that UX is very, very, very familiar for most people, right? And I think if crypto can get to that point, that's when we're going to see this humongous like transformation of people coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that mobile will have the same impact on Web3 that it had on Web2, just in terms of how people spend their time. I mean, it feels feels like almost like it goes without saying. Ben, so question for you: interested in the experience of building a swap aggregator on Solana? Were there things specific to Solana technology, Solana community, anything like that made it easier? And for just to add some context for people who aren't familiar with Jupiter. I think they launched, right at the beginning of November 2021. Within 2 weeks, I think they had something like 12% market share across all swaps on chain, which is pretty crazy. I think in 2 months they had something like 25% share, and today they've got 63, 64% share depending on the day. Now, when we say share, obviously swaps that go through Jupiter are routed to the entire ecosystem. But Ben, interested in, well, I guess a few things. Interested in if there's anything Solana specific, but also when we're looking at numbers for Jupiter, if you had 12% share in the first 2 weeks, and 25 in the first 2 months, and 63 today, it was 12. Your user numbers were smaller relative to volume, but today you're 65% volume, 65% users. So what was it like getting both institutional volume as well as retail?
A lot of work. So I guess like speaking about building on Solana specifically, one of the challenges is technically, well, at a high level, it's about composability, right? So what we do, we're like probably one of the first protocols to compose on top of a lot of other protocols, right? And unlike EVM chains, in Solana, you're limited by transaction size, right? So it's like 1232 bytes, which is the size of a UDP packet. And so a lot of the engineering work in the beginning was trying to fit all your swaps inside this small packet size, right? And the reason why you want to do that is that you want atomic swaps. So if you don't get the amount of tokens you expect to get, we can roll back the whole thing like it never happened, right? So, so in the beginning, it was sort of like we had to do a lot of work to fit all these things and and build really sophisticated best price route discovery engines. So we do some really cool shit where we do multi-hop trading, and we also trade split. So we chunk up your trade size into smaller pieces to reduce the price impact and get you more token. So that was pretty challenging, and that's ongoing work. I think people don't really understand that you can't stop ever, because every time a new token launches, a new liquidity source launches, the computation grows exponentially in complexity and things slow down. So we have a very, very fast site, and that's because every day we're working on optimizing the back end to make sure that when you click on something, it happens right away.
And I'd guess that at least for us, we're working with enough protocols that they change their protocols, and you have to adapt to that as well. And I'm sure that's been part of your experience as well.
Yeah. I mean, it turns out like with Composability, again, we're kind of one of the first or the early composability kind of protocols. So we're like the first to see everyone's SDK, which means that we're the first to like test it out and have to help people fix their bugs, discover bugs. A lot of times behind the scenes, we're sort of arbitraging between our integration partners and these DEXs that have launched. And the new round of DEXs coming out in Solana are fantastic. They're really advanced, concentrated liquidity, Oracle-based market making, amazing prices, but they're more complicated, have crazier edge cases, and where issues happen. And behind the scenes, we're sort of trying to help troubleshoot all this stuff, right? It's really unsexy work that probably not a lot of people like to do, but this is sort of what's needed in order to make these things work seamlessly, for users and for developers too. So, we have an SDK and an API, and actually pretty much if you're using any wallet on Solana, and the swap inside that wallet is powered by us. That's one reason why we have a lot of traction, is because we quickly moved to being an infrastructure protocol and providing a robust, comprehensive swap layer for any project or any protocol that wants to build on top of or access liquidity in Solana.
Yeah, I mean, for us, you can swap on our website through Jupiter. So.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, this is a question for like everyone here, but for, I guess, if someone in the audience here is thinking about building on Solana or is an existing builder on Solana, like what would you guys say has been one like hack or a secret to helping like make your Solana building experience much better that you would share or like recommend to other people building on Solana too?
I mean, we're early enough in the life cycle of the ecosystem that it feels like there's crazy demand all over the place, product market fit but no product, etc. So I would say it's pretty easy to find those pockets because people yell about it on Twitter in all caps, and so just like look around, and it's easy to find something that people are desperate to have solved.
I would actually say, and I don't have a lot of experience on other chains, but on Solana, people are pretty accessible. So if you hop on our Discord and you want help with something, right? I mean, we even help people. We have a developer support channel. I feel like sometimes it's coding 101 because there are a lot of people who are learning to code on our SDK because they want to access the ARB profits, basically free money. So and we've actually given out like millions of dollars in ARB profits this year. So it's definitely worth it for you to learn to code. But it's like pretty accessible. So like if you're stuck, you can just go ask. And I mean, like all the core team, all the founders are actually responding. Like we have moderators, but the core team actually talks to everyone who has a question. And my DMs are open. You can talk to me. And then I think the other cool thing that we've seen, like with projects we like working with, is that they're also proactive. They're like, oh, hey, like let me build this for you, like because we don't have bandwidth to build everything, and so sometimes like another team will be like, hey, you know what, we need to do this component anyway. Why don't we build it, open source it? Would you mind like promoting it or talking about it? And then we're happy doing that, and then I think it's like these projects are we're helping each other, and I love that part about Solana.
I mean, that was great. I don't have a ton to add to that. I mean, I've just had a great experience working with everybody. It's cool because there's always an example of something already having been done, right? So like you can kind of figure out any problems you're having via conversation. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of like Stack Overflow equivalent yet. It's pretty limited, but the fun thing is like it's all, we're all kind of learning it together a little bit. One, Solana's new, and two, all this blockchain stuff in general is fairly new. So a lot of edge cases that you got to work through with people.
I was going to say also, the Solana itself is super accessible. So there are events everywhere, but the team itself, core team, non-core team, they're there to help you build an awesome product, and so they're looking for you. So don't hesitate to reach out to them.
Yeah, and like on the point of Stack Overflow right now being like less good for I think most of the blockchain programming languages. One of the things that we hacked was actually just literally going to these physical events for Solana. So we had co-founding engineers based in San Francisco, and so we actually went to and worked out of the Solana office in SF because it was literally like IRL Stack Overflow. And in New York, actually, there's a really amazing Solana office. It's in Soho at 190 Bowery Street, and it's basically like for anyone that's building on Solana or thinking about building on Solana, there's existing protocols that are working out of that space, and it's very open and accessible. And so there's founders there all the time. And so I actually think some of the physical opportunities with Solana hacker houses that are literally rotating throughout the world, there's tons of ways of getting developer resources pretty quickly, and I think everyone's like very friendly and open to help.
Yeah, I actually met Anatoly for the first time at a hacker house. He just like walks around, like just whatever, like just subtly, and then you could just talk to him. And I thought that was like one of the most like coolest thing. Like it's not like he walks around with an entourage or anything, right? You could just walk up and talk shop, and it's cool. I mean, he does have like a big bodyguard behind him, like every now and then, but it's not
heavily
like
armed bodyguards.
Yeah, but it's not like to everyone's point, like it's super accessible, right? And people are just, I mean, the nice thing, it's not about necessarily like the hype or this narrative. Like everyone's just there to like solve problems for this next wave of crypto users. And that's it. We're all just like product builders looking to, do cool shit.
What about Solana mobile stuff? I know we wanted to touch on that quick. What are your thoughts broadly on where Solana mobile goes? Do you think it was a good call?
Well, for me, I don't think it's. I think people kind of get it wrong, where they're like, "Oh, this is going to be bigger than this Apple or Android," or they think that's the game to play. And I think eventually that maybe, or at least the standard gets adopted by other platforms. But I think really for now, like the importance of it now is that I think there's a critical mass of crypto users, probably mostly on Solana, that want a really great experience. I don't know about you guys, but actually the bulk of our users come from mobile. They use our website on mobile. And like, if you could make that experience awesome, like imagine not having to deal with a wallet. Like literally you can use your biometric, your face or your thumb to like approve any transaction. And also like for dApps and dApp developers to not have to worry about breaches, right? Like, so it's a hardware ledger wallet inside the phone. It's super secure, and it's protecting your assets without like other developers inadvertently doing something that might leak your key, right? Because it's being passed around a lot. So you've got a more secure experience, a more user-friendly experience, right? What can you do with that? And I think that's the thing. Like, there'll be enough users and developers building stuff to figure out like what it's going to be compelling for everyone else that might be interested in doing this.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow on to that last point, I think a side effect of Solana getting behind Solana Mobile in such a big way is that you have all of the best teams on Solana building, really intense, crypto native mobile applications, which I'd have to imagine is, one of probably the first, the first chain to have, these, massive multi-billion-dollar, businesses building mobile native, crypto native applications. So I think it's obvious if you think about it that mobile is the future of crypto, future of Web3, and to have the entire ecosystem kind of, no pun intended, but mobilized to build something like this, I think is long term very very bullish.
Yeah, I think it's also just like a really interesting test too, because if you're thinking about and like looking at the things that Solana is doing from a retail awareness and retail acquisition perspective, they're running lots of tests at the same time. Like they sponsored this thing like Lollapalooza, and there was like some NFT incorporation, and that was a way of reaching like a much broader mass market that might not be aware of Solana in the first place. And so I think the Solana phone, Solana mobile is a really great test to continue to push the bounds on the retail use case, and because ultimately that's where I think both the adoption of Solana and also just a lot of the value propositions of Solana being fast and cheap and really, really retail friendly are going to come.
What do you think the best retail use cases will be of crypto generally? Like, I feel like it's a very not retail industry other than trading.
I think it'll be in the I mean, in terms of the best, in terms of quality of life improvements, things like that. I'd have to say probably the developing world. So to Ben's point around a big percent of users being mobile, we have a ton of users who are mobile who don't own a desktop. So Nigeria has a massive presence on Solana, and so I think that you don't have to pay massive transaction fees. I think that's where you'll get like an early kind of critical massive adoption.
I mean, I think we're seeing this today, like with StepN. So StepN is a move to earn, app that's crushing it, right? Those guys, what they reported last quarter, 150 mil in revenue. And what's interesting about that is that like it's a complete mobile experience. People are actually using DeFi. Like StepN has their own DEX that we route to, but they don't even know that they're using DeFi, right? Because everyone is trading within the app, right? And what's transformative, like to Walker's point about like third world countries or other countries, is like people are looking to find new ways to earn. Maybe they're even countries' own currency is like depressed or unstable, right? And crypto offers a new way to earn, and I think that's that. And if you look at it honestly, the intersection of most people's lives in terms of finance is not trading. Not enough people, like I mean, it's probably like less than 1% of the people who have enough capital to actually trade. Most people make their money earning, right? So move to earn, play to earn. A lot of these things are going to attract the next wave. They're going to need a fast, cheap chain like Solana. And the cool thing is that they're going to be doing DeFi underneath without knowing it. And then as they earn more funds, I think, for me, this is a gateway, right? They're going to want to do more with their funds, and they're going to discover protocols, like Cega or Bridgesplit.
It's a network effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, yeah, to Ben's point, the actual number of like hardcore traders as a use case is definitely not. It's like the overwhelming minority. But I think where the broad retail use case is likely to come from is just ways for mass users to actually grow their wealth. And I think there's lots of sustainable ways to grow their wealth. We're building a product that offers a really great opportunity for retail users to do that. But I think, like, outside of the intense trading activities, like I think you have to have retail use cases where people can actually continually earn money and not necessarily be as sophisticated from a knowledge or like technical expertise perspective.
Just going back quickly to Ben's point on STEPN, which was that you have millions of users who are using DeFi without knowing that they're using DeFi. There was an interesting dynamic where those users didn't know that they were using DeFi, and I think DeFi didn't know that those users were using DeFi either. I think that's one of the big benefits of building on Solana. So for people who don't know, STEPN's massive. I think you said 150 million of revenue in the last quarter. STEPN's internal, STEPN marketplace was the biggest NFT marketplace on Solana for a long time. To anybody who's active in Solana, did you know that? and I believe I believe STEPN now has one of the biggest dexes, right? And so, this is like STEPN onboarded millions of users to crypto, millions of users to Solana, and in a way that was kind of distinct from the, defined Solana ecosystem. And they have a massively successful business doing that. And so just, I guess, going back to the, you're building on Solana, what should you think about? This is technology that you can take advantage of in many different ways. You don't have to build something that, weaves in perfectly to the existing architecture. You can have something distinct that, makes sense for what you're doing, like STEPN. So.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, we actually, I mentioned before, we have an SDK and API, and we have actually GameFi apps that use us to power their internal swaps. Haven't announced this yet, but we are actually also partnering with a number of people who are building gaming crypto SDKs that tie in Unity and Unreal Engine, and we will be partnering to offer the liquidity APIs to that. So if you're building a gaming experience, or a metaverse, right? You'll be able to have like a nice experience with a native wallet and be able to swap in the game. And the cool part about that, right, is because all these games are play to earn, right? So I don't know, you're growing shit and earning token, or you're playing a first person shooter and you're making money with your time or whatever it is. You might want to exit out of that like native token to USDC or take a position somewhere. You can do that without leaving the game, or doing anything. It's all going to be in there. And I think that's kind of like some of the beauty about being an infra layer, is like you don't have to be the front end to everything, Yeah,
the other thing is these things are small today, but they're growing incredibly quickly. And it's there are these network effects that are built in, and so it's this infrastructure that lets things go grow like they have, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this stat too, but from a user acquisition perspective, I think it's like 90+% of new users to, I think it's like any blockchain, are actually coming from an NFT use case as opposed to a DeFi use case. And for us, when we were launching our NFT collection in addition to our DeFi protocol, what we learned is that these user bases are so different. And at the end of the day, like 90% of users coming from the NFT use case, they probably aren't aware. It's kind of like to your point. It's like they're coming for the NFTs. They're not coming for the technology. They're not necessarily coming for the blockchain. And through the acquisition, there's lots of opportunities for them to actually learn about all of the amazing additional use cases that are accessible. And so I think the retail mass adoption, like where all this growth will come from, are going to be these exciting like everyday use cases, as opposed to these like very selective. Actually, gaming I think is a really great example as something that's like very everyday, very accessible to the masses.
Yeah, actually, I had a really interesting AMA with the famous Fox Federation, which is a popular NFT collection. And they're one of these NFT collections that has yield, right? And they have some. They actually have also DeFi utilities, and you can lend and borrow uh, uh, their NFTs and things. And I had there was a really interesting insight, talking to them compared to DeFi folks, right? So people who do DeFi, they really have like one goal, like maximize my return, right? And that's it. That's all they care about. Like, and if you don't do it, I mean, they're implementing all these strategies and doing all these things. But what was interesting to hear about this NFT collection, right, was that they have this thing where their users don't all care about that, right? So they're building out this thing, like a lot of their, like, say they have a staking functionality in their collection. Yes, you can earn yield. Is it great yield? No, but alongside earning that yield, you actually earn like levels, right? And your NFT becomes more powerful and bigger and more, like, your ranking goes up, right? And so to me, what's interesting is that you're earning some money, but you're also like earning a reputation within the community. So all of a sudden, maybe you become an OG or you become a leader in the community, and there's social value alongside financial value. So then I think people don't care as much about, like, well, if I'm earning only 2% here, I can earn 20% somewhere else. I'm gonna go somewhere else, right? They're like, well, actually, like, I'm a pretty core member here, and wow, I can rank up to the next thing if I just keep my stuff staked in there, and I make a little bit more money. And they're like, okay, I'm gonna stick into this thing,
And you could almost go so far as to say that it's the social value that drives the financial value for an NFT
Yeah.
project, which is a really interesting dynamic because of how networks work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's super cool. It's super sticky. I actually think it'd be interesting for some DeFi projects, to play into that, right? Where it's like, okay, maybe it's not all about maximizing return, and then actually create like a culture or a community that just will stick with you no matter what.
What are you guys' thoughts on some of the like other parts? If you have a bunch of retail people getting into Solana, we had that hack on Slope a little while ago, stuff like that, right? How do you think you address concerns for people who are worried about the different ways that now that they're self-custodying their funds, right? Now they have to be responsible for this whole new list of things, which is not Solana specific, of course, just general to self-custody.
I mean, for us, I think it's like, well, two things. We want to get hardware ledgers to more people. We want to educate folks about the, how to be more, have better secure practices, and that, like, I don't think people are as aware in terms of, when it's about self custody, how much trust you must have in the wallet you're using, how much trust you must have in the protocols that you are using. I think this is actually one of the most uh, like like I don't know, like gaps between coming from the centralized world, where like you can just fuck up and it's okay, and it's not a big deal because it's all centralized. The customer support will figure it out for you, right? But that doesn't happen in crypto. So, um, you know, like I think there's still a lot of work to be done to sort of educate people around that, or build experiences that hopefully don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, another way to think about it would be just build better technology. So it's technology is improving. I mean, wallet technology is improving on Solana, on all blockchains, and so I think clearly we're still early in that respect.
Sorry, I was to that point. I agree, because I think SMS like solves some of that. Like where it takes away the need to deal with the private key. But the problem is, I don't know if it's not a pure technology. If anyone is touching that private key, this could be an operational problem. It could be like like a lack of enough code auditing, or I mean, there's so many points of failure, for anyone who touches that key, right? And you just have to be careful.
Yeah, I think given self-custody, there's so many ways that you can solve this problem of like, potential exploits and thefts. And like, when we worked with security auditors to audit our code, just even in the process of researching security auditing firms, we learned about lots of new technologies that are being built around the, crypto security space. And I think that's also one area that's really lacking today. But I think there's a lot of protocols that are working on like anti-theft, for example. So on one hand, like how secure is the wallet in and of itself, and on the other hand, are there additional ways that users can actually protect their funds? And I think there's like a lot of really interesting like anti-theft protocols that we'll see emerging in like the next 2 quarters, 3 quarters.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the example of people in Nigeria using Solana because it's a better spot to put their money than a bank or something like that. But if their private keys are gone, life savings gone, and then now what, right? It's a very scary, like the self-custody world, or even like partial self-custody world is like very intense.
Yeah. Actually, Walker, you did a lot of on-chain analysis on that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the wallet hack itself actually was super interesting. There were so for people who aren't familiar with it, this was not a Solana problem. There was an issue with a third party wallet provider. Web 2 kind of issue. Same thing could have happened on any chain. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that was most interesting to us is that I think of the 10 or 11,000 wallets that were drained, there were 500 wallets that had never signed a transaction. So they'd sent 1 SOL or 10 USDC or something to that effect to that wallet to capitalize it, and then never touched it. So yeah, it's all the way that it manifested itself certainly was interesting. I'd say.
It was a crazy day. I guess the other thing with like regards to security and stuff is as like all these protocols that we're all integrating with and stuff start open sourcing, you see more hacks and all this stuff. What are you guys' takes on like broadly Solana open source community and like the general theme of like, oh, Solana is like a closed sourced DeFi ecosystem and all this stuff? Because inherently, I guess being newer and stuff like that, it's been a little bit harder to go quick to open source. But I guess any thoughts on where we go from there?
I support both open source and closed source. I think it really depends on how, like, if you're running your protocol or business, where you see your advantages and I mean, in general, open source relies more on community building. And closed source, maybe more around the tech, protecting your tech and IP. But like to me, the thing to solve around that is more like composability and interoperability. So whether you're closed source or open source, and this is one of the challenges with Solana, but to be able to call into another program very easily, and right now it's not there's a lot of room for improvement. If you're using Anchor, which is a framework that makes it easier to build on Solana, with Anchor you can automatically generate an IDL, which is an interface language, which tells people how to use your program on chain. This I think actually only really works well if you're open source, and then people have to like the team has to generate it themselves if it's closed source, and a lot of teams don't. So it just makes it hard, right? And then you have to contact the team,
And then Walker, have you done any work like deserializing on-chain stuff? Like I know you guys are doing a bunch of indexing, but I'm not sure because again, Ethereum you could see like all the contracts once they're uploaded, but I'm not sure if right now.
We deserialize all of it. So it's a pain in the ass.
But you have everything. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Actually, like I'm always constantly surprised by the data you have on us.
Yeah.
and everyone else. Like I think your data is probably the most insightful, or even I guess like the thing is like I think you told me what'd you tell me, like you can actually track insider trading or something. Like,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. So we do all kinds of fun stuff at Hello Moon. You know, some of it you could theoretically do with any blockchain data. I think with Solana, it's rich enough that you can find really interesting stuff. But so one thing that we did is we looked. So we've got this smart money inflow, smart money inflow, smart money outflow indicator where we look at large wallets that have generated above 50-60% annualized rate of return. What are they buying and selling? We found, hey, that's actually hugely predictive. And so we're trying to think, well, what could be more predictive? So we thought, well, maybe insider trading. And so we looked around and we found here's an account that is clearly insider trading, these 3 collections, and we can trace it back to a Twitter user, and lo and behold, that Twitter user is involved with those 3 projects. That's probably a really interesting indicator, if you're looking to make money buying or selling Solana NFTs or DeFi. And then after being, wow, this is hugely predictive, we then realized also, maybe we have a moral, obligation to to share this information. But it's funny, it originated with just trying to find good signals to buy or sell something. So
yeah, I think you told me what was it like if you see on your site like some of the smart money trading on something, like 1 week later, like it actually the price pops or something. Like
yes, it's crazy. So we're not back testing. We're not doing something to back test into getting good results. We're looking for what are the most successful wallets buying, what are they selling, and it actually has proven to be super predictive. So it's to Ben's point, I think it's 24 hours after being in a top 4 inflow, it's up 15%. A week later, it's up 12%. A week after being in an outflow, it's down 12-15%. So I guess going back to the concept of building on Solana, doing arbitrage, etc. These are really substantial financial markets. So swaps is $80 billion of swaps. Massive NFT volume, but the markets are still inefficient enough that you can make basically outsized returns, whether it's arbitraging on Jupiter or even just following. It's like if you're in Web 2 and you hear that Bill Ackman bought a stock, the price goes up by 20%, right? But in Web 3, nobody knows. So anyway.
What do you think for new, somebody's never looked at anything on Solana before? What would be 2 or 3 protocols you'd say they got to check out to feel like they're getting the early Solana experience?
Well, I'd say at least 3. The 3 up here.
Right.
But in addition to that, I'd say check out. Candidly, if you're swapping, you should be swapping on Jupiter using Hello Moon, obviously. But
yes, please do.
So check out the DeFi, check out the big DeFi protocols. Check out Mango Markets, check out NFTs. Magic Eden is a massive marketplace that's aggregated a huge number of users, and it's so I guess can't lose. But
yeah, I would say Magic Eden. Although there is a NFT aggregator called Hyperspace as well, really good guys based in New York. They've got some cool tools like floor sweeping for NFT markets. So Magic Eden, the biggest lending protocol is SoLend, but there's also a number of others. The interesting thing actually, and this is why I kind of like Solana too, is that there are competitors, but they all take different angles, right? So SoLend is the biggest, but the other lending protocols have a slightly different offering, or they're taking their lending protocol in a different thing. Like maybe they're more focused on fixed interest, than others, right? Or another one might be more focused around liquidation protection, right? And then you can kind of try them all out, and actually there's also the ability to because you have so many, you can actually our sister protocol Mercurial has launched. We have a lending aggregator, So for anyone who wants to deposit into it, we automatically optimize the yield on lending protocols, and you don't have to do anything. We just rebalance every few minutes. And the really neat thing is you can also, very soon you can LP into our stable pools, which are very low risk, right? Earn yield on the from the fees, the trading fees, the liquidity mining rewards, and now lending protocols. And you don't have to do anything. It's like crazy. And this is the kind of crazy composability that's on Solana, like, that I think is you don't see as that can be done,
I'd also say check out Degen coin flip. So you put in,
Yeah.
1 sol, half a sol, 0.1 sol.
That's right.
Guess if the coin flip will be heads or tails. If you guess right, you double your money. If you guess wrong, you lose all your money.
Yeah.
So I, check it out.
That shit, like a lot of people love that. If you're a degen, do the degen coin flip. I think actually some protocol, there's a number of protocols who operate different versions of that, and they do pretty well. Like,
Yeah, they make a lot of money. They don't have an NFT that like they buy back or something like that. Or no, you get a revenue share or something. Degen, fat cats.
Degen coin flip. Highly recommend it.
So bizarre.
he's not an investor in it.
Not financial advice. It's funny though. Like I remember with Ethereum, there was this like viral blog post that basically said, "Hey, if you're trying to get into DeFi for the first time, like do these 10 things." And I actually remember like looking at this list, and it's just like so expensive.
Oh yeah.
Like for you to 101 DeFi, it's so expensive. But like actually, I mean, it'd be useful to have a similar list like that for Solana, because I think Solana is such a great way for anyone to start trying out DeFi, like every aspect of DeFi, like staking, lending, borrowing, like options, like Cega, like anything in DeFi. It's a really great playing ground because it's fast, it's cheap, and you can make mistakes and learn from your mistakes quickly. And it's not easy to do in some of the other chains.
Yeah, totally agree. It's I think when I first started too, I lost some money. I mean, and I was like, oh god,
From
what is this
Degen
thing?
coin flip?
Yeah, Degen coin flip. I tried that thing, and
I've actually only made money using
yeah,
Degen coin flip.
yeah.
So again, highly recommend.
I'm more of a builder. So if I'm like, oh, I'm losing money on this thing, maybe I should build it, like, and make money from others. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, no. Solana's a lot of fun. I think we're probably getting up on time. I don't know if we do like questions or anything like that.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Question.
So everybody knows Solana, right? What are your guys' thoughts on like Aptos coaching challenge and the sentiment being that Solana's gonna like they're gonna die and then Aptos is gonna take all TVL.
Well, I think Aptos got the Saber team, as far as I know.
So look. I mean, I know a lot of people who are building on Aptos. Just to share a little bit. Okay, like you got to take things with a grain of salt. First of all, I mean, I think I'll caveat this. I think the Aptos tech is good. The team is good. There's potential, but it's super early. But like a lot of people are hustling, man. Like there are people. I was actually talking to who was I talking to? Oh, right. So like when people say, oh, they've got a lot of people moved over to Aptos, right? I think Aptos put out this thing of like, here are the teams that are on Aptos, and one of them was like Soulflare or Soulrise, right? Which is a big team on Solana. I talked to those guys, right? You know what they said? They had one call with the Aptos team. They didn't even say it. They were just like had a conversation, didn't promise anything. Next thing that you know, Aptos has put up a post saying they're on Aptos, right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens when you're early on, right? So you just kind of take it for a grain of salt. I'm not impinging on anything. I think the team and the tech is good, but it's just like, and people are always hustling, right, to build traction and momentum when you're early. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's super early. It took years for Solana to get where it is now, and I think it'll be the same for Aptos.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is, the way that Solana is structured, whether it's from a technology perspective or just, Solana Labs, has allowed them to be incredibly nimble. And so if you look at, the technology improvements that have been put out, I think it's a question of is it easier to change, to improve the tech or to acquire the users? I'd say probably to improve the tech. But I mean, for us, when we look at Solana, we see massive, growth really no matter how you cut it, and with no signs of slowing down. I think Phantom's adding something like, 10 or 15,000 new, human users a day to Solana, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think on the Apto side too, among builders, there's also the sense of like, it's both hustle but also a bit of FOMO too. Like, we're also really curious about new technologies, and you don't want to be like not in the know. And so I think especially with Aptos, because the programming languages lend themselves so well if you're a Solana builder already. I think there's a lot of early interest to just understand and explore. And given that, if it's a new blockchain, obviously they're missing a lot of the key primitives that every good blockchain will have. So I think, builders are hustlers, builders are opportunistic, but they also want to they're really curious and want to learn. And so I think there's a lot of like buzz around that I think is often conflated with like, oh, well, it means that they're like abandoning or potentially like leaving certain blockchains.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, it's like if it turns out the technology is better and the users like it more and the apps are better over there, so be it. Like, we're all in this, right, long term to build like a composable, more decentralized, accessible financial system, and all of that comes down to like, how do you build things people actually want to use and are actually useful? And like from my perspective, that was Solana. But if it turns out to be one of these new chains, like, I'll go build over there too. I mean, it's all about what do I build that actually causes somebody else to get some benefit out of it, willing to pay me to do that,
Yeah.
right? And so ultimately, like, I don't look at any of this stuff as competitive to me. To Solana, sure, but competition's good, right, and everything. And so I think it's like the same arguments that Bitcoin people used with Ethereum and Ethereum people have used with Solana. It's like there's no point in continuing that like kind of more nativist and like internal fighting within our already tiny community. Everybody I talk to about crypto, the only thing that they'll say to me is like, "Are you guys okay?" Right, over the last 3 months, and it's like nobody actually knows what's going on at the technology level, what's being built. And so for us to say like, "Oh, this other blockchain is going to take away all of our users," like, there's nobody using this stuff really right now. So like, we really need to focus on like, how do we build things that people want and bring value. And maybe it'll be Move, maybe it'll be Rust, maybe it'll be Solidity, but at the end of the day, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, like, the thing is like, it's all FOMO, man, right? Like, fucking Aptos and doing all this, it's all FOMO, right? And most FOMO drives almost everything. But the thing again, like, just speaking to why I like Solana is that, if the underlying thing is real problem solving, right? And the work that Solana has been doing to fix the congestion, the work that they've done with improving NFTs and the experience and the cost and everything, like these are long-term investments, and so that, like, I don't know, when the market's hot or FOMO's hot, like, this is why things spike, right? Because these problems have been solved. And so I think that's an important thing to look at, right? And I think, again, I'm also maybe not say Solana maxi to the fullest, but like whatever chain works. But I just think that Solana has the best concentration of these kinds of people, So.
Anyone have any other questions?
Second question would be, given that the chain goes down every single month, do you think that Solana Labs will be able to like stop that and it will have a smooth, stable chain and doesn't fall?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective.
Can you repeat the question just for the audience?
Oh, so yeah. So given that the chain goes down every month, will Solana Labs be able to prevent that from happening? I mean, I think like there hasn't even, I mean, to your point, like right off the bat, right, 7 times the number of transactions as every other chain combined, is a good indicator that when you test the edges of a technology, like, you're going to have problems. And so the way that I look at it is Solana is like getting to these levels of activity that no other chain is even close to hitting yet. And they're surviving it, right? Moving forward, figuring out how to fix it. And from a technical perspective, there's upgrades coming, and there's upgrades that are already been deployed. The chain is much better now. I'm not sure if you guys check out transaction throughput right now, but it's significantly better than even a few months ago. But like practically speaking, it's not none of this stuff is like natural. Like it had to be invented and then improved over time, and so we have to figure out how if 1 billion people are going to use crypto, 10 billion people are going to use crypto. We're going to have to figure out how to handle all of that activity. And so that requires things breaking and then being fixed. And what is the Facebook thing with fast break things? Like when you move as fast as Solana, you're going to end up breaking something.
Yeah, I think also, I don't know the exact number. I think the chain's only been down 3 times though. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
Somebody has the exact
it's had some other congestion elements that have caused people to talk about things, because congestion is just bad for a lot of things like liquidations, and it does cause a chain effect. And these are really hard problems to solve, right? And again, like early chain like Aptos, you can only solve these problems when you have the kind of demand and activity to stress test the whole system, right? So actually, there's been some recent releases. I mean, the reason why Solana is doing better today, there's been some recent releases and optimizations that have improved things. Just I think this past week, they just turned on Quick, which is a low-level way for the validators to weed out spamming. So before, one of the reasons why things were getting congested was that people would create bots to spam the NFT mints to get into the NFTs, right? And then just like flood the entire network, and then shut out everything, right? And there was no order flow control. So this is a massive change. So right now, like they just turned this on live, and so each validator can actually filter out anyone who's spamming at the network level. Alongside that, there's a number of other new sort of financial ways to curb competition that's going to be coming out. One is neighborhood fees. So instead of sort of Ethereum's generalized like fee market, right, where like if there's a lot of people who want to get into the block, it increases the cost for everyone else, right? Even if you just want to send funds to another wallet you have. In Solana, one of the upcoming optimizations will be like neighborhood fee markets. So what that means is like if anyone is competing for minting an NFT at that particular time, those people may have to pay more to get in to the NFT mint. But anyone else that wants to, say, just transfer funds to another wallet or interact with a DeFi protocol, their fees don't increase. And I think that one's going to be a good optimization too. So
yeah, just to add some more context in terms of what's required to actually take down the chain. I mean, I don't have the numbers for the last the exact volume that was put through, but we'll see. I think like 3 months ago there was a single account that tried to do $17 quadrillion worth of transactions in a single day, which for context I think that comes out to like 80 years of global GDP. Assuming global GDP continues to grow as it has, I mean, it's like quite a substantial amount of value. So that had no impact on the performance of the chain, et cetera. I think it's only when you get, I guess you couldn't call it like a coordinated attack because it's not. It's coordinated, but it's not an attack.
Yeah.
So the chain can take a lot. I think most other chains kind of in similar. If you look at Ethereum when Bored Apes launched the Metaverse project, that actually was the same day that Solana was last down, and I think Solana was down for like 6 hours, and I think on Ethereum where there was similar kind of people trying to bot basically an NFT mint, you would wait hours to see to learn if your transaction had gone through or not, and you'd pay the gas fee either way. So it's kind of pick your poison, I guess.
When I think like a common criticism is like, oh, the fees are so low that you can do $17 quadrillion worth of transaction volume. But like to me, the solution to like getting people to do that less isn't just make them pay more necessarily, right? Because then it screws over. Like it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously you can make things more expensive and people will do less things, but that's not necessarily the right incentives.
Well, I think the flip side to that could be that if you're botting something, you know, you can't take 2 cents per transaction because you're doing it, you know, billions of times or whatever. But if you're a user doing it once, it's just 2 cents.
Right.
You know?
Right. And that's why the neighborhood fees are going to be interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, financial disincentives are like one of the most powerful levers to curb abuse, and so the neighborhood fees is a good sort of compromise, I think, because I mean, and that's the thing. Like, we're living in this world, like spam botting, like, to get in is not really an attack. It's like someone who's more sophisticated who wants to get edge, right? And like, we should, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with bots, you know, per se, right? It only becomes a problem when the bot crowds out anyone else, right? And so, like, you know, designing the right mechanics to support both is really important, you know. And I'll be truthful, like, you know, what a good percentage of our volume comes from trading bots, you know. I mean, this is why you see a lot of this stuff, because you got sophisticated traders doing stuff. You have ARB traders that are running ARB bots and looking for ARB profits, and you don't want to, like, say, hey, you're not a real user, get out of here, right? Like, that sucks.
Well, those are good bots, right? Because ARB, you know, ARB gets better execution price for consumers. So, you know, I mean, another thing is, so I think, you know, the American Express network was down, you know, like a week or two, I think, before Solana was last down. You know, Visa, MasterCard, et cetera, you know, will be down, you know, 12, 18 hours a year. So, you know, it happens. You know, I don't know the numbers. I'd guess Solana's uptime would be 99 and 4/9 at least, though. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers either. Any other questions?
Good questions.
Yeah, that was good.
Cool.
You guys have anything?
Well, good. Fun combo.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for checking in. Thanks for having us up here.